In the green room. We are
Yeah,
live. I
this
slept. Yeah, when I was there, I slept in the green room, and I everyone staying with Charlena and knowing her as I do, I took a picture of the room as it was when I first got there, so that I could remember how to put it back together. Like and I still messed up, didn't I, Charlena?
you
The
but you
pillows weren't in the right order.
well you did. I appreciated the effort.
It was a personal challenge. It was a personal challenge. I just want to strive to leave everything better than it was when I got there. I could almost make that like a mantra for the rest of my life on earth. I just want to make everything that I touch better than it was before I got there, even if the ending is bittersweet. Mm.
That's an interesting perspective.
Mm.
Good
Well,
morning.
good morning and welcome to the show. You are live or replay with the Rebirth experience with Coach K and friends. And I am joined, as usual, by my dear beloved friend, Charlena Anita, who just celebrated 62 years of life
Yeah.
earlier this month, even though she looks like a college grad. You look like a strong 40. You look like a mature 40, 45, especially because I don't see your grades as much today.
They're there.
Well, I'm gonna pull a card for us, but before I
Okay.
do that, tell us what your beverage of choice is this morning. I'm very
So
excited about
I'm
mine.
listen, nothing new. I'm going back to one of my seasonal favorites. So I made another batch, small batch of sorrow. So when I make a batch of sorrow, I make a concentrate and then I generally freeze that so that I can make batches from time to time. So this came from that, and it's delicious. It's the way I love it. It's strong sorrel flavor. It's ginger that burns when it goes down your throat, and it's sweet. So I love it.
Mm. Okay, so you're just doing juice. No, no, no alcohol this morning.
Hmm.
You're feeling.
Actually, I prefer it without rum. I just love the flavors of the sorrel and the ginger and the cinnamon and the allspice and the orange peel and the cloves, and so yeah.
I don't even put all that in mine, and I
Yeah.
call I call it hibiscus because it's the hibiscus flower. So I don't use the
Hmm.
Caribbean references.
Hmm.
But a girlfriend of mine just made a batch, and with hers, she used orange juice ice cubes
Hmm.
in there, and then she topped it with prosecco in a flute glass. So
Hmm.
it
Oh,
looked very delicious.
yeah. And who, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Something I may try.
She's a cocktail queen like you. I mean, like she is known for her cocktails, and so she yeah, she likes to use ice cubes that are juice or something else like that in her beverages. But yeah, I thought the orange juice and prosecco sounded delicious.
Mhm. Sort of
Um, hmm,
almost like a sorrel mimosa mix kind of thing.
yeah,
A little bit.
yeah,
You
that
could
is,
do that. You could do a
yeah,
sorrel mimosa. You can do a
yeah.
mimosa out of any juice.
Any day, I
I
know.
would just do orange juice and prosecco. I like it, I like doing pineapple. I like strawberry. I like blended juices just in addition to the orange juice, or sometimes just a different juice. So
Hmm.
creative.
I know. And every time I do that, it's a disaster. And I think that's why I'm speaking on behalf of people who embrace this. Bring out your inner weirdo, be super creative. And then we do it and we go viral for all the wrong reasons. It's not what we,
I don't know how you can mess up a mimosa.
well, and to me, the mimosa is juice and champagne or
Okay.
prosecco or something like that. And it could be any juice. So I don't think I could mess up a mimosa per se.
Right. Oh,
Um,
and you know what? If you top it with some Grand Marnier,
Okay. I'm
Mm,
so I need to get that. And I went to the liquor store yesterday, and the thing is, I keep a lot of, as my one of my Christian housekeeper used to say, your liquor bottles are all over there. I keep a lot of liquor, but I don't drink that often, and
mhm.
so but I still realize I want some basics for things I do like. So I got some I made an actual run and got some Kahlua, salted caramel Kahlua. That's in my coffee this morning, and it's
Very nice.
absolutely
Isn't it
delicious.
amazing?
Mm,
Mhm. Take it to
mm.
another level.
It's like a warm hug, you know. And I got some Bailey's almond cream, so I could
Okay.
keep the non-dairy. Yeah, and people are catching on too, because when I was at the checkout, the lady said, "Are you the person who called?" And I said, "No." So she said, "Oh, somebody called about this exact thing." Um, and so anyway, sorry, I heard a ding. Oh, I think that might be if I guess he's messaged me back. So I'm gonna see what he says. But anyway, this coffee is absolutely delicious. And then I have a protein shake because I didn't have time to fix anything. I do not use those for dieting. It's like, oh, I'm hungry. I don't want to cook anything. Let me make this shake.
Mhm.
But this is fire. And I did add a little bit of I added a whole shot of the Kahlua, and then a half as much of the Baileys. But it
And the
is just
Bailey's
like a
is
warm hug.
also it's also delicious in your hot chocolate as well,
Yes.
if you do that. So,
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, he's going to join us at 11:30. So,
okay. All right.
yay.
So let's get
All
to
right.
it.
Let's get to it. All right, let me pull our card for today. I'm going to shuffle these. I'm going to just do a quick mix around here. We are closing out 2024. We are welcoming in 2025. I want to share now, and hopefully, again at the end, I'll remind you guys that I have decided to go live on Wednesday at 7 p.m. just for about 30 minutes, just to do some live work together around the things in your life that, lessons learned for 2024. What are we releasing from 2024? Everything was a lesson. Uh, Nothing bad happened to you this year. There may have been things that were
Mhm.
unpreferred, but nothing bad happened. Everything happened for your good. And so you have the ability to change that story so that even as you move through 2025, you're not repeating um, negativity around experiences that were brought to you for a purpose. So we're going to do some closeout work live on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. All right. We're going to go with number 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, ooh, look at this.
Work.
Hmm. I am learning that worry doesn't change an outcome. All right, it says worry is a wasted emotion. It does nothing other than give you the illusion of control.
Mhm.
When you expend too much energy worrying, it limits you and has an adverse effect on the natural energy of the soul. Worrying destroys hope, faith, and excitement. And these are wonderful elements of life on earth. Remember that you are what you think, and you have the power to create positive thoughts, which beget positive outcomes. Worry is a negative emotion and sets you up for a negative result. What unnecessary worries are you carrying around with you right now? Examine them objectively in the light of love. Help your soul by releasing them and be fully connected to the current moment, which is where your power resides. Man, that's so good. Worry is just serves absolutely no purpose in our lives. And I think that's so appropriate for us talking about dating after a breakup because that is a massive worry. And people stay in relationships because they're worried they're never going to find anybody else. And this is the devil I know. Like, listen to that phrase. This is the devil I know. What do you think about that, Charlene? And did you have any worries about dating after divorce?
So I think it's interesting in the statement that you read. So I think when you spend time worrying, that energy that you put into that, it takes away from the ability to be in a space of rest and waiting, and peace, and even positive action towards the things that are within your control in that situation. And I know for me, interestingly, a few months ago, I was very, very stressed about my job. There were some changes that were going on, and changes that really weren't in alignment with what I came to the company to do. And because these changes were happening, it was a major change in my lifestyle, which just did not work for me. And so I was like, okay, do I need to quit and start looking for something else? And not really knowing exactly what the outcome of the changes were going to be. And I was just, stressed because I really wanted to ride this position into retirement. And I'm just thinking about, okay, I got to start interviewing. Da, 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 da. And I was spending so much time worrying about what I thought was going to happen that I didn't realize that what I needed to do was just wait and rest and wait until I truly saw what was going on, because I didn't even know. And I felt like I was worrying unnecessarily. Like I was putting a lot of energy into something that I didn't know what the outcome would be. And I really had no control over the outcome. The only control I had was what was going to be my response to whatever the outcome was. And so what I realized was the best thing for me to do was just to wait and see. And that took away the worry, it took away the stress, and realized that I only have control over what I have control over. And my control is, what do I do with the change that actually comes? Don't worry about what you think is going to be. When it gets here, make a decision of what you need to do. So worry is a waste. It's a wasted emotion. It's wasted energy. It does nothing for us but give us stress, but takes away from the quality of life in terms of the things that are in our life right now that we can enjoy. It consumes us. It sucks all of our energy and it sucks all of our life, when we really do have other things that we can put our focus on, and we can allow those things to take us back into the joy of life. So that's about worry. And then you, now to your question, because you did ask me a question, right? So
Kinda, kinda.
okay. So did I have worry? So listen, I shared with you before that the only thing that I had, I won't say it wasn't worry, it was the real giving thought to, and the realization that you may be alone for the rest of your life. Like you may not have a partner, and I had to come to accept that that could be my reality. So there wasn't a worry about it, because technically I felt like that was something that wasn't like happening to me. It was something that I had, and I did have a level of control over it, meaning control of how I live my life if that does happen. So I think because I had that, I didn't have to just sit and wait for it to happen. I could choose how I live my life today,
Mm-hmm.
how I shaped my life today, so that if that did happen, I was in a better place to accept it and be at peace with it and live a fulfilling life if that was going to be my plight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think too that, at least from the women I've talked to before a split, they had stayed to the point of exhaustion. So they weren't thinking about a new relationship at all. It's and it and I think a lot of I'm working on trying not to speak so much in generalizations because I realize I do talk a lot like that. So in my experience, um, I think men struggle to believe that because most men don't desire to ever be without the company of a woman. So they don't understand that women will leave a man just for him. Nobody else is waiting in the wings. She doesn't know what's coming next. She just doesn't
Yeah,
want to be with you
right,
anymore.
right.
And that's hard for them to accept. So they have to assume that there's somebody else waiting in the wings when it's sometimes it's like, no, I'm waiting in the wings. The other version of
Exactly.
me that's
Exactly.
not here is
Yeah.
waiting, and I want to go to her. She's calling me.
That's
um,
a beautiful way to phrase that. I'm waiting in the wings. I'm waiting for me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And anyway, I had a random thought that I'm not going to entertain. I actually I love the part of that reading about control
Mhm.
because we spend so much time worrying. All of our worry and anxiety, by the way, I heard someone say anxiety is your body trying to resolve something it can't. That's why there's that inner tension going on.
Mhm.
But what you could do instead, and I don't know that this will work for everyone, but one of the biggest things that's helped me these past few years is writing more things down. I'm not a traditional journaler, and so I wasn't doing it at all because I knew I didn't really like to journal. That said, the iPhone does have a fantastic new built-in journal app that I want to make sure everybody knows if you're an Apple user because you can do anything from a video to a voice recording
Mhm.
to pictures, inserting pictures from something you did recently. It's a great way to track it, and it keeps an oversharer like me from sharing on Facebook. I can put it here and I will anything from screenshots from text messages I enjoyed, all kind of stuff can go in that journal app. But I do love the voice note feature when you're stressed and you just need to get something off your chest, but you don't want to, talk to 5 million friends. That's the best place to put it in.
Mhm.
Um, I'm taking a note.
I didn't even know about that. So I've got to find that so I can use.
Yeah, and it's helpful because I was listening to. Oh, Charlena, get me back on track. I did write down a list of the dates I want to talk about. Okay. I did that because I know how I am, but I'm so in love with information. Oh, I know what I was saying. When you write things down, it can be different, but writing it down requires the use of different parts of the brain and it helps me to process information and things. And so I will just write down things like, these are my fears, and I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that, I'm afraid of that. And when you read it back to yourself, you're like, really? Is that really that big of a deal? But the point is, in all this list of uncontrollables, look for the things you can control. Focus on that, work on that, do those things. That should keep you busy enough so that you're not obsessing about all this stuff over here that's totally outside of your
Mhm.
control.
Mhm.
So I would encourage that. And the other thing is, I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget to say it. I got sucked in last week, and I should have sent you this link to T Pain. He's a rapper. I feel so old with everything I'm about to say. He's a rapper. I don't know. As a matter of fact, it turned out I did know some of his music because it's catchy, but I didn't know who he was, that he did it, none of that. But I was randomly scrolling in the news feed and a video popped up from him doing he did a concert series a year ago that was all covers, and he sang a song called Tennessee Whiskey, and he has the most amazing voice. I have
Didn't
to
he?
send
And
it
I
to
could
you.
be wrong, but I think, ooh, maybe it's, I don't know if it was him or Two Chains. Didn't one of them win the voice? Not the voice, the Mass Singer. Anyway, I could be
I
wrong.
don't know.
Off.
I didn't see
But
that.
yeah, okay.
I didn't see that. But here's the thing. So I listened to that Tennessee Whiskey. It actually took me into the ugly cry, but I needed it. It was wonderful. Tears can be very cleansing. I've learned we shouldn't fight them. So I ended up listening to a little bit more of the concert, and there was another song he did. And he said at the beginning, he talked about some of his personal stressors and things like that. And he basically said that, something will happen and we'll let it take us down, all day long. And he said, but if you really look at it, the incident itself was only 5 minutes. You just talked about it all day long. I was like, I feel attacked. So I'm going to say it again. He said whatever happened was about 5 minutes, but you talked about it all day. So we drag ourselves through it. And that's what I've been using the journal app for at times is instead of me calling Charlene and now I'm pulling her into this and we're about something that still isn't resolved. I just go into my journal because the other thing that helped me with doing that is it showed me how much time and energy I'm giving to something that I can't control. So that's been really helpful for me in terms of coming to a place of acceptance before the end of the year. But before our guest comes on, I wanted to talk. I'm going to share my little bit about my dating after divorce. And doesn't mean we'll always share our personal stories. I was thinking about that too. Like sometimes we just need to talk about the general, keep it more general. Um, but I'll go first, Charlena, just to share because mine is more recent, and I did some really dumb things, things you never would have done, and I have learned that just like when you're immature, you don't know that you're immature. People who are behaving immaturely, they're not connected to that. They're not aware. When you're very vulnerable, you don't always know that I'm in a vulnerable state right now. You don't always realize that. And I learned that I don't have my spidey senses weren't nearly what I thought they were. And I've learned that when you know that you're presenting yourself as a good person, good intentions, honest, and you're authentic and whatever, we assume
that you're going to attract that's what you're
yes,
that's
yeah,
what you're
and that's what yes.
mm-hmm.
And so, like many people, the first one of the first things I did was get on some dating apps,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like
I'm
that.
pretty sure I told you about this first guy. Um, but anyway, I met him on an app. He was super tall and handsome, and we agreed to meet at a Mexican restaurant. I go in there, I see him, we give each other a hug. I would never do that again, but this is me. I'm so open.
Okay. Okay.
So we had great conversation. I didn't stay very long. I think he bought me a margarita or whatever, and I left. And when I got home, and I'm feeling like, ooh, he was handsome. I think we have a connection. The Holy Spirit was like, Google him. He slipped you his real name. You need to look him up. And I instantly felt a chill just in receiving that message that I needed to look him up. So I signed up for some kind of Truth Finder, I think it was called, or something like that. Honey, this man had a massive criminal record.
Wow.
He had family violence, criminal trespassing, stalking. None of it was recent. I'm getting nervous just even saying those 2 years ago. None of it was recent, but it still had all um, occurred.
Okay.
And
And what did you learn from that particular experience?
I learned that I'm not going to Google I don't want to get to the place of paranoia where I'm Googling everybody and Googling everything through truthfinder.com. And sometimes maybe you should, right? I just know for me,
I Google everybody.
okay, well,
That's fine.
okay.
But I
Yeah,
okay.
I just, and you
But
know what?
so
I would Google everybody, but I'm saying, would I pay for a full
or
background report
right.
on
Yeah.
every single?
So
Because
I think
it freaked me out, Charlena. Like that's the reason why I got so many cameras installed because I started having these paranoid moments where I thought he was standing in my backyard. Now he did nothing, and it was 10 years. The charges. I mean, it was a long time ago. He served a little time. That's not my vibe. You know what I'm saying? Even if you've performed. Um,
but I think for me what I'm hearing is the takeaway that I'm hearing is you followed your gut, right? Your gut told you something. The Holy Spirit said, "Hey, check out this guy." And I think many times it could have been very easy for you to be like, oh, he's cute, we vibed, and all of that, right? And just discount that little voice that was telling you, check this dude out, you know? So, I mean, I think that that's a very key takeaway from that experience is if nothing else, you followed your intuition, the Holy Spirit, your gut, whatever anyone may want to call it, you did that. And that's very, very important in this whole dating world.
Yeah, it was. I heard that message loud. You need to look him up, and I. That's why I want people to know. And when we have one day a conversation on religion and spirituality, God never forsakes you. I don't care if what you're how you're living is like everything everybody ever told you was wrong. The Holy Spirit never abandons us. You're always going to get a sign. You're always going to get a signal. It's up to you what you
If you
do
want
with
to live,
that.
you want to
Sure,
live. Mm-hmm.
in any situation, you're going to hear that voice
Mm-hmm.
directing you. That's the Holy Spirit.
Exactly.
Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't, look this up. Don't check that out. Your keys are over there. I'm saying this with all due respect. I use the Holy Spirit intentionally to make sure I don't forget things. If you take a moment of calm before you have to go somewhere to an event or occasion or whatever, and you just sit for a minute and you just say, Holy Spirit, show me, do I have everything I need? I have done this before very important occasions. And I will sit quietly for a moment, and a voice will say to me, you don't have your charger.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have your this, things
Yeah.
like that. And so I believe in listening to that voice.
What else have you learned?
Um,
Did you learn
well,
in
I've
your?
learned to take my time. Like the place I'm in now, I don't even think I would be venturing outside
Mm-hmm.
because I think that you do have to do it at some point. And because no matter how long it is you wait to start dating, all your past is still going to come back up like it all just happened. So
Mm-hmm.
I know there's reasons to do it to date right away or take a break. And I've always been an advocate of taking a break after a relationship, but I've not honored that myself. So I can't give that advice anymore. Our guest is here. I want to bring him in, introduce him, and then I may or may not weave in some stories of the other dates. But just to give you a hint, this is what I wrote down to remind me of these dates: stalker, African, and simp at Panera. Those are my, those are my clues. That look
Oh,
just
wait,
this
wait,
morning.
wait a minute. I think I. Oh, I remember that one. I
Yes,
remember that one.
yes, yes. Dominique's gonna bring. He's gonna bring some sense and civility back to this show. Welcome to the Rebirth Experience with Coach K and friends. Dominique, look, I didn't do a fancy bio. I didn't do any of that stuff you do on your show. But I don't even know how he found me, but he asked me to be on his show. And I was like, you were supposed to be redoing your show years ago, Cara. Charlena keeps bugging you about it. You have this set up. Why aren't you doing it? And so you really motivated me. I enjoyed that conversation with you guys so much, especially because we're in two different generations. I was fascinated by it. Dominique and his friend are some of the most emotionally intelligent, mature, connected guys that I've ever talked to. And it was so like I could have spent a whole other hour on with them. Now, unfortunately, what I found out is they're a limited breed even in their generation. Because at first I was going around my generalizations like this younger generation really has it figured out. And then I'm hearing about all these women in their 30s who can't find a good guy. And your a stepdaughter has, and we've had those conversations. So but welcome to the show, Dominique. You want to tell us? I don't
Welcome.
remember your age or any of that. And we're going to try not to act like old ladies on here because
Yeah,
we
tell
feel
us
very
about
young.
No, no worries. And I was just laughing initially as far as your three when it comes to Panera Bread, Stalker and African. That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
Panera Simp. That's what I'm going to call him.
Panera Simp. No, but my name is Dominique. I started a podcast in August. It's called Open Enough to Listen. And prior to that, I have experience in law enforcement, working with homeless families, mental health, the whole thing. So I just kind of got into this space, just talking about it, pretty much from a, a break off from a relationship, and just everything that happened in my life. Going through therapy and different things, it kind of brought me in a different perspective, especially different things that I childhood, especially like things I've seen in law enforcement as well. So
Mm.
that was pretty much why I pretty much decided to do the podcast to share life experience, especially coming from a male perspective, because it's looked pretty much like stereotypical. It's not. It's very, especially from a black male, it's just different in how we're portrayed.
How
And
old are you?
there
Did you
I,
say?
I I'm 37.
Okay.
there aren't a lot of black men um, who have done work, who have done therapy, that are coming out and sharing their experiences and sharing their perspectives. So I want to applaud you first of all for the work that you did, and that you're willing to share with others, so that people can hear a man who is healing, who has healed in some areas and continues to heal and grow. A man who's out there sharing. So thank you, Dominique, for that. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Pleasure. Once, Coach K, because I like that was probably one of our best episodes. It was really fun. And like I told her when she told me, I said, no matter, because she pretty much did the same thing for me. So I was like, why not return the favor?
Awesome. So, Dominique, we do have a requirement for the next time that you join us.
Okay.
You have to come with your beverage of choice for the day. So we're gonna cut you some slack for today because you're a newbie. But next time you got to come with your beverage. I'm drinking a Jamaican Sorrel that I made myself. One of my favorite
Mm,
drinks for this time of the year. And then
yes, ma'am.
Cara is drinking.
It's coffee with Kahlua. Okay. And Charlene is an alkie. She usually has a little spike something with her. She doesn't want me to say that. Maybe not. But yeah, it's coffee with Kahlua. We live in our truth. And you wouldn't know this, Dominique, but based on our background, for us to get on here and openly talk about alcohol and that we're drinking alcohol, that would be a whole thing. And there are people who would
Mm,
change the channel because of that. But
mm,
we don't care anymore. If I'm doing it, why am I hiding it? And I'm 52 years old. Like, I'm just not gonna. And I do see a lot of grown people do things like that, but God already knows. So why do I care what Dominique thinks? You know what I mean? That's where I'm at
right.
with it.
Absolutely.
That's where I'm at with it. Dominique, did you say, hey Dora?
Hey, Dora.
Um, did you say that were you married before, or was it a dating relationship breakup?
No, it was a dating relationship.
How long were you guys together, if you don't mind me asking?
Approximately 3.5 years. But I would say this was like my previous situation because I was just going, with a lot of stuff that was kind of thrown my way, rather doing law enforcement, graduating college, and I played sports too. So in essence, I had it easy. If I'm to break it down at its rawest form, everything was for the most part somewhat give it to me. So I never really appreciated it, and I never knew what love was based off of different things that I've grown up seeing and had experience when it come to the dating. So I really didn't date till after high school because of advice that was told to me when I was younger. So one of my first relationships was long, but we didn't really communicate. So I didn't know necessarily what love was. I thought what it was when it came to watching what I would think not to do when I saw my mom. I would just look at different things that the guys that she dated, I was like, nah, I'm not doing that because of how they treated her. So I tried to do it that way until I got into a relationship, and she showed me what love was. So it was different for me, but in that same situation, I didn't value it because I was still moving with the intentions of what I knew. and then I end up stepping out on her, and then that's when I realized, like, no, this person was, you know, how they treated me, it was just completely different.
Mhm.
So I tried to do different things to earn the trust back, but that never happened. So during that time, through all investment and everything, trying to work my way back into hopefully the good grace of her, I realized like it wasn't going to work. And in that moment in time, I was still doing law enforcement. I realized like, I needed to, take a step back. And once I did, that's when I ended up having a spiritual mentor, ended up going to therapy. And I realized it was a lot of stuff that was more so in my past,
Mhm.
and then everything was compartmentalized, whether it was my past, growing up, in LA, and different things that I experienced, and then going into law enforcement, that is added to that because all I did was compartmentalize that. So I never
Mhm.
dealt with a lot of my issues. I just know to press forward. That's
Mhm.
all I knew. Like
Mm.
regardless of whatever situation come, I just know to keep going forward, not pretty much stay stagnant. But I never dealt with a lot of different issues. So
Mhm.
that's pretty much how everything kind of was compounded and started.
How old were you when you were involved in that relationship and when the breakup happened?
I was 30,
Okay. And
and the breakup happened around, I want to say I was 34.
oh,
But even in the 34, like 34 to I'll say 35 and a half,
mhm.
I was still operating as such. Like for example, she got kids, and her son, I ended up taking him in because he was young when I first started, but he was pretty much like my son.
Mhm.
And so even after the breakup, it was more so co-parenting, but I was still taking him to school, doing all different things until, you know, things kind of happened and I started kind of setting boundaries. She started setting boundaries, and then it kind of got a little complicated because she pretty much somewhat took him out of the picture, and I was kind of in limbo, and that's when I was like, nah, I just kind of took a step back. But I think for me, the biggest turn point for me as a man was understanding my value. So I knew once I understood my value, it was nothing that any female, any person could tell me because I understand when it comes to my worth, what I could say no to and what I'll accept. And that was the biggest lesson for me.
How old were you when you started therapy and how long did you do that?
I started, I want to say at 30, 34. I started at 34. I did it for about 6 months. And then it's like I had a whole bunch of stuff going on. Rather, it was just like business ventures, like my nonprofit, and then other things started happening. So life, life
Mhm.
was happening. So I'm not gonna say I didn't have time because I've thought about continuing to do it, but I think what also keeps me somewhat grounded is my spiritual mentor as well.
Okay.
Mm.
How did you make the
Wow.
like what led you to the therapy? Was that through the encouragement of your
Yeah, I
spiritual
was curious about
mentor, or
that.
did you realize, hey, I need like what was the when did the light bulb go off? What led you to therapy? What was the mindset? Was it encouragement from your spiritual mentor? Was there something that, was it the situation with the ex? Was it just some inner stuff going on? What led you to take that step? Because that's a huge step.
And that's what I
Mm,
was thinking,
Huge
like,
step.
especially with Black men. We're
Mhm.
desperate for more of them to take the ego down and realize it's okay. You don't even have to tell anybody. Nobody
mm,
needs to know that you're going.
Right.
Just to sit and literally, I'm not going to apologize for my French, sort through your shit. We all have
mm,
it. Go get it sorted out. Why do you want to just I know the pain of people don't want to do it because they don't want to deal with the bringing pain up. But
So
what
yeah, what was
made you
it
take
that
that
made you
leap?
make that leap? Mhm.
Okay, this is gonna be the ride. I don't. This part I haven't really shared. I haven't shared on my platform, but
Ooh, no, only
I
share what you want to share.
no, no, no. I'm not. I have no issues with it. It was what I went through. That's why I'm where I'm at today.
Mhm.
Like during that time, like I've everything, like I said, for the most part, it came somewhat easy, and so it was hard, kind of dealing with the situation because I
Mhm.
have me and her at the time we share a daughter, At the
Okay.
time, she was 2,
Mhm.
and during that time, I wasn't in my family. So, like I said, I think that compounded with different things I've experienced, it was a breaking point. And so, I'll never forget, my spiritual mentor. Every day he kept talking, but I really wasn't hearing it. So I didn't eat for like 7 days,
Mm.
Mm.
and it was like, it was hard. Like I said, I've never like I will always joke and say like I'm the heartbreaker, you
Okay.
know, and I would say that, jokingly, not intentionally trying to break people's heart, but it's like my heart was never broken until that point.
Mm.
So that was kind of when I realized a lot of things. Like, man, this is a lot, and I think that was a tipping point. But I didn't know, like, when I did go to therapy, all of the stuff that happened with my childhood, all the stuff that happened, my trust issues, then going to law enforcement, how I was able to compartmentalize the different things I saw, and still be okay. But really, I wasn't. And then when the breakup happened, it was just like everything kind of came to him. So, the spiritual mentor, he went to prayer, and he was just like, maybe you should, go see. So that I ended up doing that, and then that's how everything kind of, compound. I started to put everything together based off of the questions. She was asking different things I never even thought of, and then as I'm going through it, I'm starting to remember a lot of different things that I did,
Mhm.
suppress,
Mhm.
and it was just, it was a mind opening experience.
So you said she.
Hey,
So
Mhm.
Jackie.
I'm going to assume that you were seeing a female therapist.
Correct.
How did, wow, okay, so that's interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about that? How did you choose a female and I'm just curious, was she a black woman? What
Yeah,
it,
no, she was a black woman. No, I was particular with it, and the reason why I chose a woman was more so because I know the male's perspective.
okay.
Mm.
And I wanted to get it from a female perspective. Like, I'm always like, a lot of things that I do, and it probably come from, little bit with law enforcement, but I calculate things. I try to understand the why, because things don't just happen just because. So when it came to that, I was wondering, okay, from a female's perspective, what did I do wrong? From a female's perspective, what could I've done better? Because I know how I think, I know how I operate, but I wanted to know what can I do to improve, for the next person and for me.
Mm.
And that was why I
Mm.
wanted to choose a black woman to see, the different perspective that a woman would have that's different than my perspective.
Okay.
Charlena, you see now why I wanted to talk to him? But as I went out into the world after talking to them, and I was like, there's hope for my daughter. My daughter, oldest daughter's 30, and this next generation, only to find out they're still unicorns, you know. But I know. So we're talking today about dating after a breakup. But I promise you, everything you said, and I can see it in Charlena too. I have like 10 additional things I would like to ask you or talk about based on what you said. And I'm open to going, in a slightly different direction. But I also don't want this to feel like an interrogation versus
No, no.
a
Mm-mm.
conversation, because I'm fascinated about the infidelity as someone who's been the recipient of that. But I love the way you framed it, and I feel like there's more there that could be unpacked, because um, there's a reason for everything, right? And then it's like, why do I make this choice versus the choice to just exit the relationship? I mean, there's so much in everything you shared, but I do really honor your decision to say, I need to do things differently moving forward. I don't
Mm.
want to be the heartbreaker anymore. I want to learn how to, I guess, maybe to the choosing, or what was, so those were some of the goals that you stated, but I guess to prepare yourself better for dating in the future. That was the reason why you chose to do it. You didn't want to receive or be the giver of heartbreak, it sounds like.
Right, but I also wanted to be the best man I can. So one of the things during that time, one of the things I would say is I wanted to practice my present for my future. So I wanted to pretty much walk into different things, preparing for whatever, God has next for me. And I think just we all want to be, well, the hope is that we all want to strive to be better people. And especially, like, I like to frame myself as a soldier. So if you tell me to do something, if I mess up once, I try not to make that mistake again.
Mhm.
And that's just how I operate, because I don't necessarily want to be that person to, oh well, this person did this. Like, I really value character. And I try to, I may make some different choices or choices that may have consequences, but we all have to live with the choices that we make. But I also think that in that choice, there's always a lesson if you want to learn it. And I think a lot of people miss the lesson. And some guys, unfortunately, we miss that lesson. Whether we see it or we just pretty much is going through life and not focus on it. And I think that could also be a thing to where we so focus on whatever we miss, the lesson and the different things and choices that we make.
Mm. I feel like it also just boils down to selfishness as well, because most people are looking to a relationship to receive certain things and not thinking about what are you bringing to the relationship itself. Um,
Absolutely.
So Dominique, you say you have a young daughter, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
how much did having a daughter have an impact on your decision to do the work that you did, or did that?
I would say it's a big role, and one of my mentors pretty much explained to me, and I fully received it. But he said that when it comes down to having a girl, because it's completely different, and with her, it's like, okay, I want to show her, what it's like when that person does come. Okay, this is what I should expect. My dad's a protector. My dad is in tune with his feelings. My dad doesn't care, when it comes to her, if I gotta, obviously it's behind closed doors, but we playing tea party, doing things, with the girl to let her know it's okay, one, to be emotional. It's
Mhm.
okay to love. It's okay to, all the different things that I feel like a lot of, some of the females may be missing nowadays. Because I also think when it comes to that, a lot of the stuff is trauma. So I just learned, like, how I'm acting as a father, and what I'm doing is showing her, hopefully what she would want in a man. That way I will be somewhat okay with when she make that decision,
mm.
because she knows the different characteristics of a man that she should want, because I'm displaying that.
I think a lot of men talk that, but you're walking it, and that's obvious. And then I think some men ignore that altogether and don't understand that how you show up as a father has a massive impact on the
Mhm.
dating that your daughters do. And oh, Charlena, we don't have time to go down that road in today's episode, but you can have a present great dad that can still have a negative impact on your dating. It's even if he
So,
was active and there every day.
yes. So again, we've shared this before that no matter how perfect you think your parents were or are, they still have shit. They still have deficiencies. And as aware as we possibly can be as parents, we still are going, those flaws that we have are going to be passed on to our children in some sort of way. So, I mean, that's parenthood. That's what it's like having flawed parents. But I think, and we've shared this before, as parents, we try to do the best that we can, but for children, and we are children of our parents. So whether it's our children or us as children of our parents, regardless of what flaws your parents had or whatever you didn't get from them, it is not an excuse, and you still have to do your own work to overcome the shortcomings that your parents had in raising you. But it definitely gives us, as children of our parents, a
Mhm.
heads up when they're willing to do their work and they realize their deficiencies and they try to overcome them in parenting us, as you did, Dominique, and as you're doing for your daughter. So,
Yeah, yeah. But I just think, Charlena, that even if And I really want to ask more about your mentors too, Dominique. I feel like everybody, it's almost like when you reach 21, 22, somebody should just sign you up for a therapy pass so you can start reparenting yourself, because nobody's ever going to do it right. No
Mm,
parenting is ever going to be at any level of perfection. And I feel like we, whatever revelations you have, Charlena, they didn't come when you were 25 and 30. My point is, there's dating and stuff that's happening before you come to a level of awareness of the impact that your parents' relationship had on you and your parents as individuals, and then
And many
together in
times
whatever union they were in.
that
That's when it
shows up
shows up.
yeah, it shows up through failed relationships many times.
mm,
Mm-hmm. Yes, it shows up through failure.
Hmm.
And that's why we need to stop mocking failure, including a breakup. There's a
mm,
lesson. I learned a lesson from the Panera Sip dude. I'm saying I can either say, "Oh, that was such a waste of my time," or I can take time to note to observe it. Like my bestie says, look at things with curiosity. Why is this showing up?
Hmm. Hmm.
Why is this happening to me right now? Because it's there for a reason and a purpose. But
Hmm.
if we look at it as just something bad or negative and we keep burying it, for some people that's why it's so repetitive, because you're not getting it, and so it keeps coming back to look at you again and saying, "Hey, look at me. I'm flashing. The red light is on. I need some attention." And people don't do that, and that's why they continue to repeat, repeat, repeat. Fascinating. But
Yeah,
do tell us
life.
about
So
your
sorry.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Charlene. No, because
No,
I want to
I
hear
was
about his
gonna say.
mentors.
Yeah, I was just gonna say life is like school, like elementary school of the old days, not today, but the old days. Like if you didn't get the lessons for whatever grade you were in, they're gonna hold you back until you show that you have gained that knowledge to move to the next level. And that's what life is. So many times the challenges and mistakes that we have, especially in relationships, are because there's a lesson that we need to learn that we haven't learned. And until we learn it, we're going to keep repeating it over and over again.
agreed.
Yeah, you could either keep getting frustrated, that which is me. I don't want to deal with it, and I felt that way for a long time through most of my 30s and 40s. I just wanted to go away, and so I keep spraying cologne. It's the equivalent of what my son was doing. Now he's finally
Not
out of this horrible hygiene phase. You just want to spray cologne. You ain't had a shower. I ain't had a shower. Okay, I
he's
don't even have. I have no lotion on at all.
spraying fragrance on the funk.
On the funk. We just want to spray it. Listen, all the incense in the world is not going to overpower something that really stinks. And it's funny, but it's a very real analogy. That stinking laundry in your room, the stuff in your life that just absolutely stinks, but we're avoiding it because it's hard, which sometimes means the ending of a relationship, or sometimes means you need to get help after the relationship is over, but you're ignoring it because you know it's going to be painful. You know it's going to be difficult. You know you're going to have to talk about some things you don't really want to talk about. You may have to do some things or not do things that you really want to do. That's why we ignore it, not realizing not only does it stink, not only is the incense not working, but everybody around you can smell it. And that's why some people are avoiding you. You're not getting some of the things and supports that you need because people can see that you're still very much in a toxic state. Healed people can and don't want to be near it. You know what I'm
Or we
saying? And
take the easy route, which is blame the other person, blame the
blame
other,
the other person,
you know,
sure.
or you know, you're out there dating and you're only attracting a certain type of dude. And you're like, oh, these ends ain't shit, or you know, all men are this or whatever, because you're attracting that because of what you haven't done, the work that you haven't done. So
And when you make that kind of comment, by the way, you're showing other people
yeah, that's a
your
reflection of
dirty
you.
laundry, because you're saying all men are this way,
Mhm.
which means that all the men you have
You right,
experienced are
Mm.
that way.
right.
So now you're telling on yourself.
Mhm.
So, okay, back to your mentors, Dominique. I love that you have them. How did that happen where you ended up getting these mentors? And listen, I don't think guys your age are may never watch the show, but you never know what can happen. And I would be curious to know, because I think everybody needs a mentor at all ages and stages of life.
I hope someone does because I do think it's important. It's important, and to be honest, that's kind of how I started my nonprofit. It was from having mentors because I was going down the wrong path, you know, in the streets or whatever, and it was actually my football coach who pretty much set me on a path to go play football in college.
Mhm.
So I think mentors is important no matter what stage of life. But as far as my spiritual mentor, I pretty much was working. I was doing work when it came to how can I say this? Like working with celebrities, and I stumbled upon him and didn't know what he started quoting scripture, and then it was funny. I remember the in-person interaction. I was like, "How do you even know I'm religious?" You know, but he was just like something told me. So since then, you know, we just kind of been, close, and he's older, about by like 20, 25 years, but he told me like some of the stuff that I was going through, he went through it already. And
Mhm.
so he was like someone did this for him, which is how it would turn his life around. And he told me that he was doing it for me. So, he calls me his little brother, but he really has been, as far as my transformation, he has been a very, you know, big part of it.
Mhm.
Mm,
Beautiful. That's
that
Because even
is.
when I'm like, if I'm wrong, like, because I have a relationship with my dad. Like well, I know going back before, my dad wasn't there due to separation. It wasn't because he didn't choose. It was, drama between him and my mother, and so he did the best with what he could do, in that time. But he wasn't necessarily there. But when I talk to certain people, they can say it a certain way because I'm quick to shut down. If I'm not really rocking how you telling me or your tone, I could shut down. That's only with people who I value their opinion. But he says it in a way that I can relate to, and then he'll break it down. And so for me, that was like, okay, I can, listen to him and understand him because he'll look. So whenever I'm wrong, he'll be like, "Nah, you wrong, little brother. You supposed to do." So it's like, okay, I had to take a step back because I try
So
whenever I go ahead.
because you respect him, you listen, because there's no point in having a mentor, everybody, that you're not going to listen to. There's no point in saying you want people in your life for accountability, and then when they show you the mirror, you don't want to hear it, and you're gonna, like, that may be something else you need to work out before you waste somebody's time. Not to say that I feel like we have to be convicted in our own mind. It's not just
Hmm.
that he says it, you do it, but it should be that he says it and you examine it.
Right.
Somebody has given me information about myself and how I'm coming off. I need to slow down and examine and internalize it myself, and it
And
sounds like you were willing to do that.
yes, and I think it's also based off of people because I know I've been around people like that. I'm Even when it comes to women, I'm more so of a person. I don't like yes people. I don't. I want someone that like kind of will kind of come back and have me kind of think like, well, maybe I could have did this another way, or maybe I was wrong. Even just question. I don't like whether it's male or female. That's yes because it's just like I'll be stagnant if everyone's saying yes and I'm agreeing. I want you. If I'm
Hmm.
wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Don't just get along, get along. I don't move that way because I feel like you cannot uh grow and you cannot progress with that.
Mhm.
But I know it's a lot. It's I know some friends that are like that. Well, I'll call them associates, but I know they like
He said,
the
"Don't make
fact
me,
that
don't make me too close to them."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I just don't move like that. But I know some that's just like they like people around them that you make them feel good by just saying yes, and it's like so you're the top. You don't want to elevate, so you'll stay in that little group because you don't want no one question. You don't want no woman questioning you. So it's like that. I don't know. That's just not me. But everyone's different.
Mhm.
I see you, Charlene. I feel like you have something.
Thank you again. I just want to thank you for everything that you're sharing
Isn't
and
he wonderful?
So,
You got mom's approval, Dominique.
so okay. So my question is this: I'm going to kind of move it in a different direction here. So one of the things that you said, you talked about your life, how things were easy for you, how things pretty much worked the way that you wanted them to work, and you just you had it like that. So there, but it wasn't until you had the heartbreak, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And I think for most of us, it takes something, some situation, some event, something that generally will push us to, whether male or female, to getting to therapy. But for it, unfortunately, it takes that. But for some people who maybe have not gotten to that point, but there's still significant areas for growth. Like, how would you encourage maybe a young guy in his 30s who's listening today and he's saying, well, I got my shit together, I mean, yeah, yeah, somebody broke your heart, so you needed to do that, but I'm good. My shit looks good, my stuff is good. I don't need that. Like, what would you say to that person that kind of had the same mindset that you had, approach things the way that you did, but they haven't come to their, I'll call it, rock bottom, their emotional rock bottom? What would you say to that person who was operating the same way that you were, but they haven't necessarily hit their rock bottom, but they are in need of the growth that you experienced? Do you follow me?
Yeah, no, I'll follow you. I would say, and this is my opinion, don't hit rock bottom. It's not fun.
Mm,
But I would definitely suggest when something does happen, just realize it. Like the biggest thing is because the signs is there. It's just we have to sometimes realize because people will say things like a lot of people say like, "Oh, I can't reach you. I can never, reach you because I will have my walls up." That's kind of a sign because it stems from trust. Rather that relationship or another, it was stem from trust. But that was something that everyone said who I would encounter that they can
mm,
never get to me.
Mhm.
But if everyone said that, that means it's a pattern.
mhm,
I just never paid attention to it. And that
mm.
was the biggest thing, which is why it was the infidelity because I didn't think it was going to be anything because of my trust.
Oh, so
So
slow down right there. So you're saying that even the infidelity was tied to trust. Was it that you didn't trust the partner that you had, you didn't trust yourself, or you didn't trust the relationship itself, that it was really going anywhere anyway, so it doesn't matter, I may as well dip?
all three, I'll say all three.
Mm,
And like I said, once I realized it for myself, it was pretty much too late. But at the same time, once I was able to finally get out, I was like, okay, this is something I need to try to work on. But I think there are signs, going when you're like when I was like for me being 30 at that time, how I was moving, everything was coming. There are always signs. It's just you got to pay attention. And if you don't pay attention, then when you hit rock bottom, it's just like you start to reflect and you look at a lot of the things that dang, that was I could have did better. But some people don't look at it like that. Like I can say my one of my mom's guys, which is my sister's dad, he's 55, I want to say around that age, still doing the same stuff. So it's just like some people get it and some people don't. Like I thank God that I was able to get it, but it's just like you have to reevaluate yourself. And a lot of us don't like to face that. And it could be pride or it could be, you just don't want to feel weak. But I feel like in this time for me, as far as the feeling weak part, like I done did a lot of stuff that a lot of people wouldn't did. Worked in law enforcement, like I said, doing all different things. I didn't like even when you said interrogate, I done been interrogated. I done
Mhm.
been in court. I done been like, so it's just like nothing you can kind of put towards my way that will kind of like, well, I feel weak. No, I'm comfortable in my skin. I think when people
mm,
realize, being comfortable in your skin as a man, you don't have to worry about what everybody else thinks. And I think that's the biggest thing. People worry about what everyone else think, what they're gonna say, and their pride. When it's just like once you remove that, then you'll be good.
So let me ask you this. So when you look at the person you were before you did your work
Mm,
and someone from the outside looking in, like you had this image of like you worked in law enforcement, like that's macho, right? You had this
mm,
persona of strength, right? You were in
mm,
football, like all of these things, these masculine things that make a man like a man, right? Manly.
mm.
When you look at those external indicators of strength and you look at the person that you are today and the work that you did, like how do you compare the strength of a man that you are today versus that man before?
I would say that it made me who I am. I think it was required for me to go through the different things I went through for me to be okay with now. Because I think that strength, as far as we continue to move forward, that's a plus. But I also think the stigmatism when it comes to not expressing yourself, holding stuff in. That's where the issue I feel lied in because a lot of stuff that I held in. It's a lot of stuff that I will continue to push forward without dealing with situations. And then when you look at going through a relationship, you will continue that same habit because you will just know to push through and not say nothing and hopefully it gets better. And that's not the way to go. So I think that obviously me today is 1,000 times better than me before, but at the same time I think I need to go through that because if I didn't go through that turmoil, I wouldn't appreciate who I am right now. And I think that's the biggest thing. I understand what I went through, but I appreciate it so much more and I value a lot of things so much more because I went through that.
Mhm.
Because I think a lot of times when people get things, it's not appreciated if you didn't go through it. It's almost like the society like being microwave instead of going through the whole process, instead of it being quick, when you go through things long term, you appreciate it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Mm. Wow. I want to ask you something. Well, first of all, I want to say that I think that you can only get to certain places if you're willing to accept your flaws. It's just
Mm,
something I've observed in other people. And then I also went through a long period myself where I was just like, this is who I am, which is a bit, which is a wall right there. Even saying
mm,
that puts a wall up. This is who I am. And I had to learn to say, like, it's just what you said. If and I used to tell my daughter this, if 9 out of 10 teachers tell me you're a problem, it's you. If the
right.
majority of people are saying that, we have to accept it. But you can't get to a place where you speak with the confidence that you have unless you accept those flaws. And accepting the flaws doesn't mean, I think you struggle with it at times because number one, I don't think we like to admit anything is wrong with us. But if I accept and own my flaws or my challenges or whatever we want to label it, you can't attack me on that anymore. I'm not going to be as insecure about it. I'm not going to be as defensive. I know I have some challenges in these areas, and I'm comfortable stating that. I think there's a posture a person has when they have come to a place of acceptance fully of who they are. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of dating, um, if a woman is on a date with you and it's the first date and she asks you, what did you learn from your breakup, do you consider that to be, but I'm not even asking you to answer the question because you already have. What I'm asking is that question too heavy for a first date? Because this predates you, because I do feel like a bit of a senior on here right now, but there used to be all this protocol where you shouldn't ask a man up front about getting married or having kids. Like there's all this stuff you're supposed to avoid and just keep it casual chit chat. I don't know that I'm a fan of that, because I'm at a place now where if I'm on a date, I don't care if it's a first date. If I can tell that you're not able to go deep, then I don't know that I even want to be bothered building a deeper emotional connection. Because when I think about a question like, what did you learn from a breakup? I feel like you should be able to talk about that. Now you can pick and choose. I'm not saying he needs to. I'm not saying that's the moment to say that you were unfaithful like first day. I'm not saying all that, but somebody should be able to say top line things about what they learned, because that shows me their level of self awareness. I'm 52. I don't want to date anybody who's not self aware at this big age. And so I would rather know early if someone is not available in certain ways or not in touch with them in certain ways. But would that question bother you if a woman asked you that first date?
No, I think it comes with a level of maturity. I may probably laugh and I'll be like, okay, well, this is gonna be a interesting date. But at the same time, I think it's welcome. I think when you reach a certain age, like I'm a straight shooter. So it's when you get to the point to where you're not trying to weed through everything. It's just like, what's the point of that? Just shoot two straight. Okay, what's the issues? Because we need to know if we gonna go for it or if this is just a casual thing. What's the issues? Because if I'm interested, then I'll listen. And if the person's not interested, or if they don't have the maturity to be able to articulate, like, hey, yeah, this wasn't it, then that. But at the same time, from a woman's perspective, even from a guy's perspective, you got to kind of hope that the person is being honest, because they could, if they have a motive, or if they have an underlying issue, like, okay, I'm going to say this because I want to get this person's draw. So I want to say this because I'm interested. So it's just like, you can be open, but just kind of be cognitive of, just how the person moves. Because if the person is lying, if you continue to talk, you'll see, and you better weed through the BS.
Mm. And I do think that and I don't know what the answer is on this. I could go back and forth either way, but there can be a danger, especially for women. Maybe you'll say it's the same for men, in revealing too much of what
Mm-hmm.
you've put up with in the past, because that can make the other person make a judgment about you. Oh, she'll put up with that. Oh, and
Mm-hmm.
then they think that they can conduct themselves in the same way because of what you tolerated in the past. So I
Or
think
a
that.
person such as me could hold transparency here, would hold judgment.
Mhm.
So if I met a guy and he told me how, his kids mistreat him, his ex-wife mistreats him, and, and just a lot of crap that he's put up with over a period of time, to me, that I would lose interest, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe you tolerated that. Like, you
Mhm.
tolerated multiple people who should love you and have respect for you. They don't have respect for you. So why do they not have respect for you? Why do you allow yourself to be treated this way? So back to the point of, not disclosing, everything. Sometimes you can disclose too much, and it cannot be, either the person that you're talking to can try to morph themselves into the things that were deficient in your relationship, so that can catch your attention and buy them more time in terms of, them being involved with you. Or, you have the flip side, where someone like me would may be judgmental of what you experienced. So sometimes it isn't always in the best interest to fully divulge everything. That's in my opinion. So,
No,
what?
I agree, and that's why I'm saying I would weigh it. But I do feel like I wrote down learning what I did wrong or what I would have done differently, to remind myself to say that if someone can't answer a question like that, it tells you that they haven't really done any work, especially if the relationship ended a long time ago and they still don't know, like, what role did I play in the
Mhm.
demise of this relationship. Or a softer way to ask the question might be, what would you have done differently? How would you have shown up differently in the relationship if you could do it again? And I feel like there's a way that you can answer that without bringing extra judgment on
Mhm.
yourself for your choices. And Charlena, I, after my divorce, really struggled to figure out what I did wrong. And I know that sounds crazy to people, but in dating since then, I have learned about myself and how I show up as a partner in ways that aren't great. I can be all over the place and make it really hard for a man to understand exactly what it is I'm asking for and what I require and want. And I realized I have to do work on that. It was just difficult for me to assess it out of my marriage because his deeds were so much bigger, broader, louder, that I was constantly putting band-aids on those things, which actually I guess is a part of what I did wrong. It was the codependency, I guess, feeling like it was my job to fix all this stuff. I don't know, but I've learned much more in how I would could be a challenge. And I've learned that I am very I need a partner who can contain all of this and doesn't get exhausted prematurely by my sharing, because I'm an out loud verbal processor. And I think that there are a significant number of men who really struggle with listening to a woman who takes her time communicating, like both you and I do, Charlena. But a lot of women are also like this. And I think that that's also why sometimes men are challenged because
Well, okay,
this is what
yeah,
they're
and
hearing.
I get that, and I completely agree that you need to have someone. If you're a person who is very verbal and likes to explain, you need to have a person that understands that that's who you are and that they embrace that. But at the same time, especially as women, we need to realize too that our man is not our girlfriend. So we can't look to them to be that emotional space all the time the way we would expect our girlfriend to be. So there has to be a
That's
balance
true.
between the two. I think so. Yeah.
That's true. What do you think, Dominique? Do you guys get fatigued at some of our emotional emotional?
Do
Yeah, I will tell you,
do
Dominique.
they?
Let me
Do
give you some
they?
hope for the future, Dominique. Let me give you some hope for the future. It's a long way off. It's like 20 years off, but I give you some hope. When we are younger, I feel like we're very affected, most of us, by PMS and the mood swings. And I feel like if men could learn, I saw the funniest video where the woman was telling him, I've had it this time for real, Eddie. I want a divorce. I'm out of here. And he's just nodding his head and looking at her. He says, You have a taste for Italian or Chinese? And she was like, I mean it, Eddie. I'm done this time. And he said, you want the chicken fettuccine Alfredo? Okay, all right. You want the garlic bread? He just kept diverting back to meeting some other need of hers. And finally she was like, I'll take it with the garlic bread. And it was over. And I think that the another way I would explain it is, this is not going to sound like it connects, but it does. My dad had dementia towards the end of his life, right? So he would start imagining things. I tried to tell my mother it's easier to just go with the delusion. Just go with it. Stop
Yeah.
trying to convince him that it's crazy. Say, oh, yes, I do see that squirrel that's running across the living room floor. And in the same way, a man could stop trying to fix her during that time. She's not saying it, but she actually needs a little bit more attention and love. Honey, would you like a glass of wine? Can I make you some tea? Are you having cramps? Let me get your heating pad. And then the man may need to go and recharge himself separately from
Mhm.
her. Because when the cycle is over, hey baby, we're back. And that's why we look so crazy. But it's a hormonal imbalance in our bodies. It's very real. And I wish that more men took time to understand women outside of just the sexual lens. It would change your life. And he would make an amazing partner who needs to be very careful that he picks the right woman to do all of this with. But we can't help it, is what I'm saying. When you experience the mood shift, it feels very real in that moment. A man could look at it and say, this is my opportunity to shine. I'm gonna stack some major brownie points this next time and recognize it. Now, with my ex-husband, he was actually the one that showed me my pattern. He was like, "Oh, you're like this. This is what happens, or whatever." I mean, he didn't do anything about it, but he recognized it, and that's when because I wasn't even aware. And how lovely it would be to have a partner who's so in tune with you that when you're showing up differently, they're noticing, oh, this is different, and able to support you through that, instead of us just always expecting each other to just be perfect all the time. We just want our partner to be perfect all the time, to never get on our nerves. We never want to be at odds. um but yeah, the somebody said she said in the comments that the PM. It's a real thing, and the women can't always help it. And the last thing she needs is to be criticized or minimized, because the only reason why we're experiencing PMS is because we're also able to bring forth life.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of potential depth there. It wouldn't be occurring if we weren't also capable of bringing forth life. And so
Mhm.
I just believe that women need some extra nurturing, but that's why I added in men need to also go and recharge. Fill her love tank and then say, "Hey baby, do you mind if I go meet the fellas at Taco Mac? We're going to go out and get some time." And then recharge yourself that way while holding space and grace for the fact that she's having a moment, you know? And if you pick the right one, she will in turn replenish you once that season has passed for her.
I would say it's if the guy could be in tune to know when, that's good. And if the woman can say, "Hey, look, this is my time of the month when I do this. I may, a couple days before when it starts to happen, this is what it is until this time." So I think it will help us out because a lot of times with guys, we be so one track mind or focus on stuff, we won't even pay attention to that. But if you bring it to our attention, therefore it covers all bases because you can't say, "Well, I told," no, you told me. Right. So now you put the ball in the guy's court. Okay, now that you told us, what are we gonna do about it? So in that time, like for example, okay, you tell me this. Okay, is it that time? Okay, now I'm gonna move and I'm gonna give you grace, rather you tripping or not, because I know this is that time, and whatever you need, I'll cater to that. And then after that, like you said, it is good to recharge, but at least you gave me a forewarning, so I know. I'm going to be dealing with a little bit of shenanigans. It's fine. I mean, it's like even when you think about it, you go to work, we deal with it, but it's just like with the person that you're with. As long as we know and we come prepared, I'd rather prepare for than like, man, what's going on with you? You told us, so the ball is in our court.
But we don't
I'm
always
sorry.
know.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Yes.
And I'm not
No, you're
laughing at
fine.
what you're saying, Dominic. I'm in a totally different.
I don't want to hear it, Charlena. Let me add
There are
this
things
about
that
the
as
PM.
a woman that you can do to charge his battery, to help charge his battery after you've had your moments of
That's true.
being
And I
PMS.
thank you for keeping that clean, Charlena. I'm going to go back to my point that I wrote down here. But let me say first of all, ladies, if you love your man, and you know you have a PMS issue, when your cycle is over, it needs to be Romance City every month. He needs to have that to look forward to. Like you need to be on the
Yeah,
chandeliers,
that's
pull
real.
out all your tricks, smack it, flip it, rub it down, everything he likes with a meal every
Mhm.
month. Just do it every month so he can have that to hold on to. Make it
Yes.
be
Yeah,
consistent with
And
look
it.
forward to.
this is not a PG show, but in light of what we're saying, just remember your mouth can't get pregnant.
She look at Dominique. He was like picking up on that. She loves saying that, and she has it on a coffee mug, Dominique. Okay.
Okay, let's keep it moving.
So this is what I wanted to say is that I don't know what one of my notes is. Oh, I do. Let me just skip to this one. I want to say that those feelings shouldn't be disregarded, though. Like, oh, she's PMSing. That's why, and then we're just ignoring what she's saying. No, that's not the
Mm-mm.
answer either. And one of the things that I found for me is that, and this is also because I was not in a good relationship, everything that was already wrong was intensified when I
Magnified.
had PMS. And I just really, so I needed to deal with that. It's like it was coming up for me to address it. But during that time, I was just way too emotional for it to come out right. I couldn't really communicate about it clearly. But I'm saying that to say whatever she's upset about during that time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it should all be disregarded. If
Hmm.
anything, if I were a man and I really love this woman, I love this relationship, I will do what I can to diffuse it so we don't talk about it right now, but I'm going to keep that in my mind as a
Mm.
recurring thing that if I'm her man, I love her, I'm her protector, provider, whatever, all those things, I don't want to ignore an issue that she says that she has with me, but we can't talk about it right now because she's not. fully in herself. She's
Mhm.
hormonally imbalanced. So I would save it. I would reserve it for later.
So I have a question, Dominique, and I hope that this isn't too intrusive. Are you currently in a relationship? Are you, dating? Um, I, I'm just
What's
Mm,
curious.
going on? Is what
no,
she said.
no, yes, I'm currently in a relationship.
Okay. So in
I'm
your
currently in a relationship.
pre-committed relationship days, and you would go out, I'm sure you go out on a date or whatever, like what were some of the things that would just initially just were turnoffs for you?
Mm.
Hmm,
Well,
that's a good
one,
question.
um, so specifically, because it took me a while to date, I was focused on me as far as the nonprofit, and then even before I started to do the podcast, I was working nonprofit, you know, being there, being a father. So I was doing a lot of things as well as coaching, football and training. So time. So if I talk to someone and they, oh, you too busy, okay. And that's what I said. That's when I realized my value. So if someone will mention time, okay, cool. I'm not. I know you're not the one. So we keep it pushing, and that's the
Wait,
biggest thing for
what was
me.
it about the time? What was it about
No,
the
they will.
time?
Oh, well, you're too busy, or you too this, and that's fine. Because the thing is, and this is okay. Full disclosure. This is kind of how when it came to um choosing the person that I ended up who I'm with now. When I was first starting dating, people would say, "Oh, it's time and you're too busy," which again, that's not a thing like the song with King George, "No One Monkey Don't Stop No Show." So it's just like I'm gonna keep moving. That's not gonna stop me because you said time or you saying this because I know I can make time. And obviously if I
That's
made
what I was
time
going to
for
ask
this
you.
date,
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing interest, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes out the window because of maybe their past experience with time or whatever. Or a friend of mine told me that, well, some people may just think you're lying because of all of the stuff that you have going on. But she was like,
Mm.
I see the stuff that you have going on. I could see how it could seem like what you're saying is not true. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I will be like legitimately every day,
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, Sunday included, because I will be always doing stuff rather it's training. So what I liked with the person that I'm with now, she included herself. And like so for example, doing the podcast, setting it up, hey, do you need me to I thought that was different in
Mm.
comparison to someone complaining
Was
about the time or kind of like you said,
This
giving
is
the
so good.
expectations of what they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm also, and then when I look at it, I'm like, I understand your time is valuable too. So it means a lot to me the fact that you're even doing that. You know, you're showing me without speaking on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took, heed to that. And that's how everything kind of, unfolded. So but I would definitely say that was big. But to me, I could easily walk away from someone time. And that's why I said the value was big because a lot of times I may, let me go see what this. Nah, I'm not. I'm just coming straight to the chase because it's like I got so much things going on. Rather it's the nonprofit, rather it's different things that I have. It's just I don't have, I have time for that. And then my daughter, at the time, that was priority. So the way I looked at it, if someone was coming in, my daughter's gonna still be there when you're gone. So that was just my
Mm.
thought process. So it's just
Listen.
knowing your value because I think a lot of guys will fall for it because I want to be in a relationship or I want to,
Mm-hmm.
get intimate. So I'm gonna do. No, I'm not falling for that.
And
I've been
you
there,
know
done that
what?
though. So it's just like once you kind of been there, it's just like you don't want to go. If I got to the point where I wanted something that was like real that could be long term,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
if not, I'll be by myself. And that's just kind
Mm.
of where I've got to. And I think when it comes to dating, guys and females, you gotta watch if you're looking at the representative or you looking at the actual person that you can be talking because there's a lot of representatives out there.
So listen, one of the biggest things I got from being on your show, like massive light bulb moment, was that I realized, first of all, that we talked about women not really listening to men. I think we talked a bit about that and how I think it was your friend who said, if I say, I really wish you, I don't like that you wear those yellow pajamas to bed. A man is going to say something. I think he said something to that
Yeah,
effect.
no, he
A,
did. He did. He did.
a man is going to say something and he's just going to leave it there. He's not going to communicate in the way that we do. And so because he may say it lightly like that, we're like, whatever. And we keep doing that thing over and over again. So he gave me another lesson that I could have, learned from my marriage. We just keep doing those things that they've said they don't like. They're not going to say, "Sit down, we need to talk," like we do. They're not going to, and women, I think, really struggle to tailor ourselves to how men communicate. We want them to
Mhm.
come over here because we think that because we're women, we have a license on how communication should go. And so you need to come over here and communicate my way at this designated time as agreed upon. And it can be slightly disrespectful. Now, let me make the second point, and I'm done because I feel like Charlena has something to say. This is a slightly different separate point. Second point. I learned also when I was on your show that if a man and woman go on a date, I'll put it in this way, and they sit down, and this is an opinion. That's why I needed a man on here. If they go on a date, and it goes along with Charisma's comment here, and over the course of the conversation, the woman realizes he's 80%. He's 85% of what I'm looking for. And let's say the man has the same thought. She's 80%, 85%. I think the man will walk away and the woman will seek to change. She's okay with 80%, but then she will spend the next 3 to 5 years trying to get this 20% to conform. Or sometimes she can accept it. It depends on what's in that 20%. But I feel like most of the time, a woman will take a man who's not fully what she needs, or some women will take a man who's not fully everything, but instead of accepting the 20%, she wants to tweak it. I don't think men come in most men come in wanting to tweak a woman. They're looking for a woman who's already pretty much what they want, and then they just want her to stay that way and don't change. That's my
Mhm.
opinion. Dominique, what do you think on that? And then over to Charlena. And I know we're running over, but what is over? This is great chat, so we're going to wrap it up when we're done.
I would say you're right when it comes to the guy, because we don't when we come into situations. I mean, I'm not gonna say that because I'm not gonna speak for all guys, because some guys may want to change and want them to be conformed to be like I said. When it comes to some people, like yes people, and I'm not built like that. But I would agree. I don't want you to change. If I'm coming at you and I'm watching how you're moving, this is what I'm thinking I'm going to expect. And I'm not going to be, oh, well, you need to change this. Now, I will say there are tweaks that will happen when you get in a situation based off of you guys learning each other. I would agree with that. But as far as completely turning, I think
Amen.
a woman, in my opinion, based off of friends and things, go off of potential, and we go off of finished product.
We're willing to take a
And
risk. Men are not getting ready
right,
to risk.
right. And I think when women go on potential, you're hoping that that person become what you thought they were in their mind. And in your mind, you're hoping this person is, but in their mind, they probably don't even see nowhere near what you think. So it's like you're pulling something that's probably never going to be there. And I think that's why you say when you be there for 3 to 5 years, thinking and hoping that this person is going to be that, because ultimately, specifically for a man, if they want to be something, they're going to be that. It's no, it's a mindset for us. So if we have our mind set up to do something, we're going to do it. But if you're trying to conform and change, we're not going to do it, because that's not in our mind. That's in your mind.
Yes,
How
yes,
did you find
yes.
that emoji thing before me?
I didn't do.
Belushi just,
You mean the balloons?
yes.
I didn't do anything. You know, I'm not techie. I just applauded and did.
Who
So,
did that?
yes, 100%, 100%. Yes. Men, you guys are not complicated. You're not complex. I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but men are
No,
very,
we're not.
they're very
Simple.
simple, very simple.
Hmm.
We are the ones that are tend to be complicated and complex. And like you said, when a man comes, when he sees, okay, that's the one, he's accepting you, a woman just like she is. That's, he
Hmm.
just doesn't want her to change because he's looking at, you're the one, just stay through like this for the long term. We're good. But we're the ones generally that are looking at him and looking at him to be something different. Oh well, he's gonna do he can, if he would just, no, because the way a man presents, he's in the same mindset that, well, she, the way she's working right now works for me. He's thinking the way that he is right now works for you. So when a woman's trying to change him long term, like he's like, what the what? Like this is who I showed up to be. And
Yeah,
then
I think they're
and
insulted. I think
it,
that I
it,
think
it is insulting. And then what happens, my opinion, a woman, she starts to nag him to be certain things that he's not. She starts to try to change him, and then she turns into a nag because he's not going to change, because who he presented himself to be is who he is, and that's what you accepted. And I
and
think women, we have to stop thinking if he doesn't work for you the way he is. And yes, there is tweaking, right? Obviously, because you're going to tweak, he's going to tweak. But when you're looking for a major overhaul, it's just not going to happen. And as a woman, if that's what you're thinking you're going to get in your man, that he's going to turn into something that he's not, it's not going to happen. You are going to be miserable. Like you, if it doesn't work for you, don't be with him. Find the person that is your everything and all. But don't try to get a dude and try to change him. You will be miserable. He will be miserable. It just doesn't work in the
but
long
I think it's because we fall in deep love with that 80%. And then we
Mm.
start obsessing over the parts of that 20% that we wish would be different because we don't want to leave him and have to go find somebody else. Women are natural nesters. We meet somebody, he's at 80%, we start putting the nest
So why
together.
do you need the 100%?
Well, what I'm
Nobody
saying
is
is it
100.
depends. It depends on what's in the 20%. And I've heard all kinds of things from women, including from myself. Some women just want more like compliments, and affirming from the guy. And that's why I'm saying my top advice is that women really know what those core needs are before you even start dating at the beginning. Because, and I may type this so I can post it up on here. This is so important. Women need to understand, in my opinion, some women, let me stop being so general. It's actually disrespectful to keep nagging a man to do something that is against who he has shown you he is. I don't care, and I'm using the calling it disrespect on purpose. Even to me, if his behavior, even if he does things that are wrong, either you're going to tolerate it or you're not. But if you're going to keep dealing with him, it's disrespectful to keep asking him to do
Yeah.
something that he's not going to, that he's already said that's not who I am. And some men will even say directly, I don't do this, I don't do that. And when they're telling you those things, they're not presenting them, Cara, because I have really struggled with this. They're not presenting those things to you so that you can tweak them. Now, you can in those early days ask, "Oh, okay, so you don't like going to museums? That's really a passion of mine. Are you inflexible on that? Is it something that you would do sometimes or not at all?" That is your moment to ask those questions. And you're supposed to be, instead of getting caught up in the fantasy of it all, you are supposed to be evaluating for yourself, is this worth my time investment? But we're not doing that. We're not taught to do that. We have a lack mentality that there's a scarcity of men, which I have told you, Charlene, I don't subscribe to that at
I
all.
don't either.
I don't care what stats you show me. I believe I can have whatever I desire at the appointed time. And so I don't live by that. But because so many women have a fear of missing out, you think you're going to leave him and then he's going to become more amazing. And so you don't want to miss it. We will just stay, deal, and keep nagging at the percent,
And
whatever it is we can't
and
accept.
Cara, so you said it's disrespectful to him, but it's also a reflection on the weakness of you as a
Yeah.
woman and you not exercising your power and your strength. Because many times when we are nagging a man about what we want him to do or what we want him to be, you don't need to nag a man. There is no reason to nag really anybody. You say what you want and what you need. I give you two times. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to tell you what I want and need the first time, and I'm going to tell you it's important. And then one more time, because maybe I wasn't really as clear as I should have been. That
Mm-hmm.
second time, I'm going to say, you know what? My bad. I may not have been very clear as to how
Mm-hmm.
significant and important this is to me. This is what I want. This is what I need. And if they don't give it to you at that point, then it's on you to decide, what do you want to do with that? Are you going to just stay there and just be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to get that. I'll deal with it. Or do you walk? But the ball is in your court. There is no, when you keep nagging and trying to make a man or someone do what you want them to do, each time you continue to bring that up, all you're saying is, I am too weak to take my power to make the decision that I should make regarding this issue. Either I'm going to stay and keep my mouth shut and deal with it, figure out a way to deal with it, or this doesn't work for me and I'm going to leave. It's one or the other. But never, you should never, ever nag. Never.
Mm. So I have
Dominique's like,
I realized that I realized that I had a major, I don't know where I got this from, but I thought when I was young, from when I was young, that when I'm dating somebody, if I have a problem and I don't like something, I'm just going to tell him these things, and then he needs to go and fix my problem and do or not do what I'm saying or work on it. I really thought that, and it took me going through um to a long marriage to realize that doesn't work. I felt like, you say you love me, you should do these things. But what I have since learned is somebody can love you, but you could be asking them to do something that they're not organically capable of. Meaning, if a guy is not big on giving compliments, like it's not natural for him to verbalize, to see you and notice that you look attractive. Like my ex husband used to say, I think you're sexy. I think you're this. I don't know why I can't say it. And so instead of me accepting he couldn't say it, I'd be like, well, he just needs to work on that because I really need to hear it, right? Or whatever it is. It's very difficult for us to understand that somebody can love you and still not be capable of showing up for you the way that you need them to. And either you're going to, stay with it, or like Charisma's Heart says, if who they are doesn't work for you, move on. It is more loving to release them than to keep berating someone about the same thing, especially if you've been there
mhm.
a
and,
long
and
time.
they could be giving you their 100%. They could be saying
They're 100%,
their
even
100%.
though for you it's only at 80. Mm.
Okay, Dominique.
Dominique, you
Okay.
got something?
No,
And because we're gonna
because
wrap
I
up
have
too.
I probably will come at a lot of different angles only because I've been all the stages you guys talking about. I've been through all of those stages. So I would say being young, like I said, not really being in no relationships. Like I've been in before that situation. I was in only in two serious situations, so I didn't have the experience of being in a relationship. Like I said, breakup. So fast forward to that when I was 30, when it comes to that being emotional, all that stuff, I didn't know how to do that because I was always either moving. I didn't know how to be intimate. I didn't know how to, like you said, give compliments, all these things. And that was at the time, that was what was required of me. That was what the person wanted. And I just wasn't there in that time. As time progressed, I started to see, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Not that I can't, is that I was never shown how, if that makes sense. So as I'm learning as I'm going. And in that time, I learned as when it was too late. But in that time, I didn't necessarily know about love languages. I started reading up, on love language. I started reading up, on different things. So that situation taught me a lot of what I can be. when it comes to different things that she was saying where I didn't know. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I just didn't know how to. And it
Mm,
wasn't taught to me. It was just, oh, or this, or you should do this. I can hold hands. I just never have. I couldn't
mm,
show public affection. I just never have. Right. But that would be what you would say. And then when I do, it'd be situation. So fast forward to that, it's funny when it comes to that because now when you have said that women be holding on or they don't want the person to end up better off once they move on, that end up being the situation. So it's like all the things you talk about is like each point like it actually happened. But I think that when it comes to the reason why I wanted to change was because I really did want to be with that person. So I think when a man really puts his mind to it and wants to change, they
Mhm.
will for that person. The only thing is, hopefully, the woman is, whatever happened is open enough to do it. But you also got to not be a fool and understand, like, okay, they're just changing for like, a couple of weeks. You have to be persistent. And the way I looked at it when I did step out in that time, I looked at it like probation. I know I'm gonna have to check in. Rather, it keeps coming up. This was something that I did, so I have to own it. And whatever happened, it comes with it. But if I choose to be in this situation, this is what I'm going to deal with.
mm.
So I think just learning in different things and different aspects of my life, I changed as a man because of the different situations. But I see a lot of men that will that will be the situation. Well, this is just what it is. But I do think you have to somewhat confine because we're not perfect. And obviously, when someone, in my opinion, it could be both ways. But when there's a separation, I think it takes two. It's not just one. So it's like at the end of the day, you have to look in the mirror and see, either what I could have done or what I could have done better, or I probably just should not have been in the situation. So I think it was just a lot of learning, but it's just funny, like how you guys said I was in every different category.
So
Wow, that's
you
why
made
you
a
were
good
smiling.
you made a good point. So how do you let's say I'm a woman and I'm
Mm,
I'm dating a dude, and how do I know? Okay, so you made one statement. You said, a man will make the changes, right? If this is the
mm,
woman, he'll make the changes. But then you also said that, so that's one perspective. And then,
mm,
but then you also said that in your case, like you didn't know how to do certain things. And how
mm,
am I as a woman? I'm in this relationship, I'm digging this man down to his dirty drawers. How do I know whether I'm dealing with someone who just isn't willing to make the change for me, right? Where I really
mm.
need to walk, or he's just someone that doesn't know. And especially, so Cara and I are much older than you. So there are certain things that we
You're
feel,
much older. I'm just
yes,
older.
I'm
Okay.
old enough to be your mommy, but, but, but like, how do we, especially at our age, we feel like there's certain things that, we shouldn't be working with potential. But let's say for some younger women that are watching, or women our age, how do you know, should I be patient with he just doesn't know, or should I say he's just a guy that isn't willing to do this particular act or things that I'm requesting? He's just not willing to do them for me.
I would say intention. They have to be intentional. You'll know when someone's intentional based off of their actions, and
Mhm.
actions speak. And I think more loud than words. Where I think that's where the sweet talk people be able to gain. But it's just like you can tell by someone's actions. So if you say, okay, I want someone to do, or you want this person, or you would suggest this person to do this. Like for me, it was like I never done it. I never said I was not going to. I just said I've never done. I haven't been like that. But like if okay, we're going someplace. Okay, how do I? How, you want me to hold your hand? It's almost like it sucks to say this, but it's like spoon feeding. If someone really don't know, you can show them. And like I said,
Mm,
I think the best reference when you look at the lyrics is teaching me how to love. He broke down pretty much when it comes
Mm.
to trying
Teach
to
me how to
love
love.
someone, and you've been through things where you don't know how to, and you're
Mhm.
trying to walk that walk. And I think for me, and I mean, I can attest to when it comes to do Brandon that was on my show. We never had that as far as someone teaching and showing. All we go based off of at that time was our mom, and they can't teach us in the sense from a man's perspective how to love.
Mhm.
So I will say intention to answer your question. I will say intention, but it's also tough because you don't know how long that is. But 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, a person can only have attention for so long till their attention span
Mm.
go, and you'll eventually see if they're really trying to do it for you, or if they was just doing it just to, okay, let me just do this because it's what you said.
Mhm.
The
So,
time will tell.
okay. Yes. So you have one side where there's just a lack of knowledge, where they need to be perhaps taught or shown the way. And then you have the other side where they just don't want to do it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I
even with the being taught, I think some women like, oh, I'm not teaching him this, and he should already know. And it's just like a lot of times we really don't. We know how to work. Like for me, I knew how to work.
mm,
I knew how to provide. I knew how to do landscape. I knew how to do all the man stuff. That's it.
mm,
I didn't know the affectionate part. It wasn't never shown to me. I know how
mm,
to be a gentleman. I know how to hold the door. I know different things my mom taught me. But as far as to be intimate, as far as to whether it's cuddle, whether it's hold your hands, whether it's caress, that wasn't something I was taught, and that was nothing that I seen.
Hmm.
So when you're walking that walk and someone's saying based off of maybe their previous relationship, that's what they were used to, and then they're trying to put that on you when you know nothing about that. It's kind of tough
mm.
on the person because it's just like I'm trying to figure it out, and if the person's not willing to help because they're just think you're supposed to just know because that last person knew, it's kind of unfair. And I think for me, that was my situation. Not that I did not want to know, I just never done it.
And the thing is, when a woman loves a man, first of all, non-sexual touch is just not talked about enough. But
I'm
if you
learning that
think
too.
about it, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? When you are in an intimate relationship with someone, there are certain things that only they are allowed to do. That's a
Hmm.
part of what makes it special between the two of you. And the non-sexual touching on the back, or just when you walk by, when your man walks by you and just touches you lightly, it could be anything. I don't think that men realize how much that would enhance something that she may have been about to nag about will go
Hmm.
away because you touched her in a loving way, and you're not asking for sex, you're just touching her. It's a whole nother love language. And I think that, like, touch is not my top love language, it's not, but I still resonate with that. Anyone who, when you love each other and there's any sort of touch, there's an extra energy that comes along with that, that couples should take advantage of. Everything doesn't have to happen in the bedroom. And that's what I wish that men of all ages could understand. Because what I find that makes me the most sad is that there are too many men who fully understand how women function and they use it for evil. They know women
Hmm.
love compliments.
It's
They
different.
know women love to hear certain things about themselves. They know all the lingo and they use it to get as many women as possible and be dishonorable instead of healing what's wrong with them so that they can, be a full partner themselves. Um, the other thing I wanted to say, and because I want us to, try to move towards a close here, and then have Dominique back one day. I also feel like men, when they accept us, and that 20%, and I've heard this in more than one relationship, um, if you bring something up, they feel like, hey, I'm dealing with your stuff that I don't care for. Why are you coming at me about these five things, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know you cared about those things. And I think that I don't even want to make that a male female thing, because it could be that there are just people in general. They're maybe they're non-confrontational, so they're not talking about certain things and have made peace within themselves without even telling you. I haven't told you, for example, Dominique, that I'm okay with those things. I just made an internal decision. I really don't like that he keeps leaving the seat up. It really bothers me, but I'm not going to say anything. And then you say to me, I wish you wouldn't leave your laundry right there. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm okay with you. You leave the seat up all the time. I don't say anything about that. Why do we do that? I just wish, as a nation of people, we could learn to separate and not conflate. That's my new favorite word, conflate. Combine two things together. Let's address the fact that you don't like how I just did the laundry. And that's it. If I have an issue with you in the toilet, I made my own choice not to bring
To say no,
that
right?
up. But we
I
put
will
mix the thing.
hijack that conversation back. I'm like, no, no. This is about the issue I have with you and this thing.
I
We
used
will
to try
talk
that. It
about
never worked.
that.
I would try to bring it back.
And then when you want to bring up the fact that my dirty clothes are over there, feel free to bring it up. But right now, this is what we're addressing. So,
Okay, so listen, I want to hear you, Dominique, but let me tell y'all this right here, right in here. I have been in an ongoing Facebook argument over, there's a viral video with a black woman saying that women don't listen. Why is it every time he brings something up, you turn it back on you? And my comment with these guys in the comments has been, my experience has always been the opposite, where because I will, if you say I'm doing something wrong, first of all, I'm always over analyzing myself and overthinking. So we're going to deep dive on whatever your problems are with me. I don't have a problem doing that. But I disagreed that all women are always flipping things back on themselves. I think men don't bring up enough. Men, there are not enough men who say, I have some challenges with you. I want to talk to you about them. Or
because
even,
they don't want to hear.
but no, but these, and so these men are clowning me in the comments talking about, you don't you're doing exactly what she said. This is what you're doing. And I told the guy today, I'm actually attempting a respectful dialogue about this topic. I said, when there are videos that come out slamming men, and we see a man in the comments who says, I'm not like that, we celebrate him. Thank you for being different. Instead, you're disagreeing with me about myself, and you don't even know me. And that's why I said I have no hope for this current generation of men. Now my perfect situation is out there, but it's a struggle because they're getting older and they are not wiser.
I would say this. I agree, and I think it goes back to what you said when it comes to women communicate, and y'all be wanting us to communicate like you guys. You guys are wonderful at communicating. Women are, just in general, for the most part, are wonderful
Yeah,
at
not
communicating.
always, right? We're not good at listening.
We, yeah, that's why I say in
Not
general,
always.
not all. But a lot of men, we don't communicate well. And what you said when it comes to the thing, I did that before. Back in my situation, because it's like you would say something, but I'll be the one that will hold stuff in, because it's like I'm just going, I'll just do it. If it's an
What I'm
issue,
saying,
I
I
might
think
think like,
most
why I
men
gotta do
hold
it? I'll
stuff
just do it.
in.
It's I'll speak for myself. It's like, well, I don't want no argument. I don't want nothing. I'll just deal with it, right? And like it's almost like you said, the nagging. It looks, for us, it feels like nagging. So when you say, "Oh, well, this laundry, this or is this," for us, it's just like, I done picked up all this stuff. I haven't said a word, and that's so it's like the stuff that's compiled, even though we did not communicate. And that's where the breakdown is. We probably should communicate the things that probably bother us, but we don't, because we just want to, we just want to be smooth. We want you to be happy. That's a lot of times how I know, for me, that's what I would think. I wouldn't think about anything else. It's just like, let me just do this so we don't have to, it won't be an issue. So I think that's the breakdown in communication. But I do think, as far as going back and forth with the guy, I don't think it's that as far as listen, I think that you guys listen. I do think, as far as if we say something, then it be pushed back. And then that's where the breakdown comes, because You say stuff for when it comes to, I'm not gonna speak for all women, but for some women, you've been saying stuff. The moment I finally opened my mouth to say anything, and I've been listening to you and you didn't listen, that's where that argument would, what they're talking about, will come
Mm,
in, because we don't say much. But when we do, we hope that you listen. And when you don't, now it puts us back in our shell. So it's like, okay, we're not gonna say nothing. And it's not right. But that's
mhm.
just in a sense how we would communicate. Because we
Okay,
hope
so
that we don't talk much, but when we do, we hope that you listen. And in that moment when you don't, that's where it'll be okay, I'm gonna just shut down now.
let me try something on you, Dominique, because I don't want to assume that what I'm thinking is right. So let's say, and I also want to give somebody language to use in
Mm,
their relationship in this situation. So if I tell you that, I really don't like this, you leaving this toilet seat up and you've been picking up after me all day around the house.
mm,
And I say, I'm really sick of you leaving this toilet seat up. I don't like it. um, is it possible that you can stay focused on that and say, all right, it's not my intention. I woke up in the middle of the night. I didn't know, whatever. What I don't want is for you to use that moment to tell me about all the picking up around the
I was
house
thinking of,
that you
right, right,
did,
right, right, right.
right? But
Mm,
maybe what I would say is it would be appropriate if a person says, listen, there's some things that have been bothering me too. I don't want to hijack what you're talking about right now with the me leaving the seat up. But at some point in time, I would like to talk about some of the things I've been holding in that I shouldn't have. Now,
I don't
Charlena
think,
doesn't like
no,
my approach
I
I
already.
completely
would,
agree with that. And I'll tell you why, because you are still hijacking it.
yeah.
Because
Mm,
this isn't about you, this is about the person who brought up the first issue. As I said, let them have their moment, and then later, at some other time,
Can
bring
we
up
talk?
whatever
Yeah,
your issue is.
right.
I mean, and I will tell you, I feel very blessed. I am. So my husband is that guy that he's an excellent communicator. I'm just very, very blessed. He does a really great job. He will come over and he will just say, hey babe, blah 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 blah. He goes, can I show you something for a second, or can I speak to you for a second? Da 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 da. And generally, most times, I accept it because it's the manner in which he brings the concern to me. And that has a lot to do with, I think, how the person receives it. If you're not
Hmm.
coming off in a nagging term, like, yeah, can't you, like, who wants to receive that? Nobody really
I would love that. Somebody who just says, "Hey
is
babe,"
like,
or
yeah,
"Honey, listen, this this is being left or this is not
mhm,
being done or you're managing the money this way, but I think there's some opportunities here." I would
mhm.
welcome that.
It's
And
not
there can be great
a
there can
year.
be grace. If you got a little defensive, there can be grace to say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. If this isn't a good time to talk about this, let me know, but this is something that
Right.
needs to be addressed."
It's
Like, why
truly
can't we
comes down
soften? Why can't we
it
soften how we
comes
talk to
down to
each other?
communication style. It really comes down to just good communication skills. The way you present the message definitely impacts the way the message is going to be received. And so I think, again, that's taking, the control and power that you have in terms of how do you present the message that this thing gets on my daggone
And
nerves.
you know what the other thing, Dominique, to hear from that, because he is a great, great, wise guy. He's dealing with the incidents as they occur. Because I think there far too many of us are super passive aggressive. I'm way more passive aggressive than I even realized. I found out since my divorce. We don't always want to just touch it right there. But that's the best time to intervene is right
Right.
away. And I remember telling my ex-husband, he said he had an issue with how I talked to him or around people or different things. And I remember reaching a point in the relationship where I said to him, listen, I realize this is a problem now. I don't want to continue it. I'm giving you permission to hold me accountable. What I need from you is to tell me in the moment. Because if
Hmm.
you wait, I'm not as connected to it and I may downplay it or whatever. And he was not really equipped to even participate in the language I was using, but I would that's when I turned it into I'm going to learn how to improve myself while I'm in this difficult situation. And with in a new partnership, definitely I want to be told when I'm doing something early. Give me a chance to diffuse it early. Don't let it build up over on your end. You're getting all this resentment. You keep putting dirty laundry under the bed. Now the whole bedroom stinks because you hiding dirty stuff on your side, like we talked about earlier. I'm hiding dirty laundry on my side, and now we funking up the whole house with stuff that nobody wants to talk about, but it stinks in here. All right, Dominique, over to you because we're gonna wrap up. Anything, any closing thoughts you want to share? What would you say to the guy? Because let me tell you something. At 37, and Charlena, I know that you have a lot of thoughts. She has really enjoyed this conversation, Dominique. Trust me, if you knew her like I did. What would you say though to the guy who's, I wish we had more time so I could hear from you about older men, because I think we talked about that a little bit too. How you guys have noticed that older men are not maturing emotionally. A lot of them are not doing the work at all. But what advice would you give? Let's just stick to somebody more in your generation who is having noticing repetitive patterns in their dating lifestyle, breakup to makeup, whether it's that kind of thing, or just going out dating after a breakup and continually attracting the same toxicity. He doesn't necessarily want to do therapy, but how would you mentor in the way that you've received mentorship?
Even if you don't want to go the therapy route, it's just learn to learn yourself. Know what makes you tick. Understand like your value and what you bring in a relationship and how you can be effective. I would definitely say that, and take time just to yourself. That would be the biggest thing that I would say. And own your faults. Like no one's perfect, rather male or female. But if you don't own, that man, okay, I have some flaws there, or it's some things I probably need to work on, or some people who they word, is never nothing. Okay, let me try to change that trajectory to try to stand on. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. It's just no. We all know, and then we could probably hide it, but we know our faults.
We do.
But I think people try to hide it to try to be this perception to the world or to the person they're trying to talk to, and it's like, buddy, that ain't you.
We
Just
don't
just
think we'll
just
be
be who
accepted
you
and
are
loved,
and learn from it.
but
Well, and
that's what it is. Though
I
we
do.
we don't think we'll be accepted and loved if we are ourselves.
But I
That
think
that
also that work is hard. It's not easy.
Hmm.
It's
It's
painful.
not
That that's some painful stuff to really look at yourself self and be honest with who you are and what your shit is. That is not easy work. But
true.
on the other side is priceless.
but it
Once
goes
you
back
Hmm.
to choosing your hard. And just like
done,
with everything else, am I going to go to college and get a degree? Am I going to work without it? I have to choose my heart at every point in life. And when it comes to, do I want to keep continue in the same relational pattern that I've had for decades, even though it didn't bring me this or that? Some people might say, yes, I don't want to do this hard. I
yes, that's
don't want to
true.
go back to childhood trauma and
True.
issues and think about my parents or
Right.
different
Right.
things that happen that come up for me. And because the thing is, when you're in that place, which is where I was for so long, you don't see, it takes a long time to get over to this side where it's joyful and wonderful. And it
It do.
depends on you as a person. Some people, maybe it doesn't take as long, but I don't think people, you're not aware of how good this could be when you're over here.
Right. But you know what? While they don't realize that, there are people like us who have done and are doing the work that can tell you
That's
it is
true.
worth it. It is
It's
worth
worth
it.
it. It
It is
is. If nothing else, y'all, it will take and add years to your life. Just living in the truth.
and the
Just living
quality
in
of
the truth
life.
alone
Mhm.
improves your
And what?
quality of life, and it gives other people the power to make a decision on whether or not they want to be in your life, because you are operating in the truest form of yourself, and you stick to that, and including your faults. If I offend you, I'll apologize, but this is who I am, so that people can make an informed decision about whether or not to be your friend, your lover, to employ you in a job. Like, you deserve to bring your truest self, because if you think about it, you know how they say when they're investigating someone for a crime that if you're telling the truth, the story's the same all the time. But when someone starts with a lie, they have to keep remembering that. The same is true when we don't bring the authentic version of ourselves. Now I have to keep performing and pretending because I wasn't really being my full self because I didn't think that'd be
Hmm.
accepted. It's a decision that is made that says I'm going to, stick to the truest form of myself at all times. I just feel like it's a really is a challenge.
And I think it's a challenge, but when you break it down to the simplest form, if you had it hard already, rather whatever route you went in your life, you had a
Mhm.
hard time. It can't be harder than that.
It'll never be
Like that's
harder
that's
than
so
that.
simple.
Ooh.
But it's like we don't look at it like that because we just, oh, well, it's that. But it's just like if we was able to go through this, or let's just say, okay, rather people going to military, you went to boot camp, you making a decision. It can't be harder than that. Like you went through the hard part. You know what it feels like to be hurt. You know what it feels like to be in pain. You know what it feels like for people who work out. It hurts when it comes to the muscles. Just make the change, and it's not. It's the same. Like it's we make it more difficult than what it is.
Mhm. 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 Good stuff. Thank you for that, Dominique.
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you guys for having me. This has been a blast.
So I'm going to, so this is what I do in closing, and you guys are welcome to stay or drop during this next part. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to read a thought from yesterday's in this spiritual devotional that I read, and then we're going to do just breath work and close out. And for me, this helps us to kind of seal in the information that we received today. Also, because we always do our show on Sundays, it kind of gives you something to go into the week with intention. And but I offer that to you guys to stay on or to drop. All right. So I am reading again. I'm almost at the end of this. I've never been this consistent in my life. I haven't read every day, but most days of Iyanla Van Zant until today. By the way, these are good for just general spiritual beliefs. It's not promoting any one religion or another. And I appreciate it. The theme for December has been peace. It's been a wonderful theme to have for the month. And I'm going to read the intro part again. Okay, before I do that, the actual for today, it says you have survived life-threatening, life-altering crisis and challenge to prove only one point: that you can and have survived. Be at peace with the way you prove the point. And weren't you just talking about, you've made it through the hard thing already. So don't be afraid to address it again so that you can get to peace on the other side. And so the thought yesterday said, I will know peace when I understand that love and peace work hand in hand. Love is the only experience that replaces fear. Peace is the result. Love is the experience of taking in the breath of life without fear. Peace is the result. When you know that you can handle all things in love, peace is the result. When you love yourself through every experience without any fear about where you are going, peace is the result. Peace is the helpmate of love. When you commit yourself to loving all and doing all in love, peace takes care of everything else. Until today, you may not have realized the divine relationship that exists between love and peace. Just for today, be a part of the divine relationship that can bring miracles into your life. Today, I am devoted to loving myself and others in a peaceful way. Absolutely loved that. And I want to remind everyone of our card that we pulled at the very beginning of the show, which was on worry. And I feel like we've made
Mm.
so much progress on this. It was a wonderful theme for the day. I'm learning that worry doesn't change an outcome, and worry is also the exact opposite of peace. You cannot have any peace when you are worrying. And we learned that we're worrying mostly because we're trying to control. the uncontrollables instead of
Hmm.
focusing on controlling that which we can change. So I'll ask you to just make sure you're sitting upright, and we're going to do 3 breaths. And you can close your eyes, but you can also keep them open if you want, and just have something in front of you that you just focus on with your eyes down, eyelids downward. And we're just going to do 3 breaths today, just to relax our bodies completely. Bring your eyelids to a close. One of the reasons why I love breath work is because it forces you to observe what's happening in your body. And a lot of times we are carrying so much tension. I feel it every time I do it, from the tightness in your face to your belly. Like, what is that doing to your body? Your body constantly feels like there's something, going on, or a problem that needs to be solved. And when you slow down and you drop into breath work, it allows you to observe that and just release. Like right now, let your belly go and your shoulders, just let that tightness go. You can take your hands and just rest them on your knees, down or up, it doesn't matter. And before you can take the first breath, you have to slow yourself down enough so that you can really get ready and focus. Calm your body down all the way down to your toes. Make sure everything is relaxed. Just kind of let it go. All right. Right now, you're not really trying to control your thoughts. The goal is to just focus on, where do I feel my breath? Is it coming in my nose, out my mouth? What's happening in my chest? You're also at the same time giving thanks for the fact that you have breaths that someone else would have loved to have. You've still been blessed with those. And so there's gratitude in there. Let's calm our whole body down. And we're going to inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, and then do a slower release through whistling lips or pursed lips. The third breath we do, we're just going to push it out. But for this first breath, 4, 4, and 4. Get ready. And we're inhaling through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. And release through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. And just relax. Get ready for the second breath. If you feel any tension, just release it again. Relax. If your mind is wandering about what you have to do next, I encourage you to be here right now. Don't think about that. I promise it will still be there when we're done. And let's go with our second breath. Inhaling through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. And release. 2, 3, 4. And now for this last breath, just relax. We're going to inhale through the nose. We'll hold it for 4. And then when you release it, I want you to say, ah. This is your release of all the things that you're worrying about. You may not have a lot of worries right now, but you may have little nagging things. We're just going to release them. We're going to inhale peace, and we're going to release worry. As we're inhaling, we're thinking the word peace, that you're drawing peace, that you want to see peace in your life. And when we exhale, we're exhaling all of our worries, things that are uncontrollable. Okay, just relax and find your breath again. And you're inhaling through the nose, peace. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3. Remember, we're releasing the worry. Let it go loudly. Okay. All right. And you can do that as many times a day as you want. Instantly, you feel more relaxed after breath work. You can do this in your car. You're stressed out, take 5 minutes. If you're living in a situation that's stressful, right before you go in the house, do some breath work to calm your spirit down. I want to thank my guest for today. This was an awesome conversation. Oh, so good, Dominique. We cannot wait to have you back on the show. And we're looking for more gentlemen to join us. I would love to have divergent opinions. We don't always have to agree. So I thank you so much for joining us today, taking time from the West Coast so early in the day. Charlena's from the West Coast,
I'm
living
from
in.
Los Angeles.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, thank you both for joining. I want to remind everyone else that I am going live on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, just to do some clearing out from 2024, getting ready for 2025. It's going to be interactive. You know, I'm going to be live doing my own little journaling activities and encouraging everybody else to come with some pen and paper and get ready to write down some of your own things. So, with that, I bid you guys adieu. Thank you all so much for
Thank
joining
you.
today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you guys.
Monique.
Yeah, this was great. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Okay, I ended the stream. Um, that was great, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah, he was awesome. Okay, it is showing live
I
on
think it's live in StreamYard. I think that's what it is. Wait a minute. No, I might be live. It says in stream. I thought I did that.